Hey, welcome. This episode features part 2 of my awesome interview with Laura Hall. She is the main musician on the improv comedy TV show, Whose Line Is It Anyway? She was on all of the episodes that Drew Carey hosted years ago, and she's still on the show in its new incarnation with Aisha Tyler as the host. And if you've ever wondered about the inner workings of Whose Line Is It Anyway, or how Wayne Brady is so darn good at musical improv and the things that he does, she'll shed some light on that in this episode. We also discuss how to face fear and rejection, and Laura just has an amazing attitude that I know will continue to inspire you. If you missed the first part, please go back and listen to Season 2, Episode 11 first, so you get the first part, and then come back and listen to this one. And stick around to the end of the episode where I will let you know about a great way that you can join my Empowered Artist Mastermind group if you want to get some support and encouragement and inspiration from a community of proactive, engaged, creative people. So here in this part 2 of my interview with Laura, we start off talking about the work that goes into reaching a certain level of success, the part that no one ever sees in the so-called overnight success of high-profile creative people. That's what's in store for you, so listen up. This is The Creative Entrepreneur, Season 2, Episode 12. You know, every now and then you run across somebody that will watch or see somebody, a virtuoso performer, and they go, I give anything to be able to play the piano like that. Well, you probably wouldn't, to be honest, because if you probably would have done it if you were willing to do whatever. Yeah, and they don't realize the work that goes into doing that, to make it look effortless. And even with improv, a lot of people go, why do you rehearse improv if you're making it up? Obviously, There's a lot of rehearsal, a lot of work and repetition that goes into being comfortable in that environment.
Yeah, a great example is Wayne Brady, who, yes, is immensely talented. He's sort of like savant talented at music, improv. But he works at it too. He listens to music. He listens to styles. He educates himself. He listens to Usher and really thinks about what makes Usher sound like Usher. What makes that voice sound like that voice?
Oh.
What kinds of rhythmic devices and melodic devices do they use? What's the quality of their voice? And he listens to a wide range of music with that ear. And that's partly why he's so good at what he does. So yes, he's talented, but he also works hard. And to me, that's the perfect combination,
Talent and hard work.
Yeah.
He's achieving mastery at his craft, or as close to it as he can come, which is pretty damn close.
Yeah. But again, he's someone who makes it look so effortless, like it's just falling out of him, Yeah. But it's because he's been such a good student.
And speaking of like mistakes or facing fears and everything, not always going and working at it and all that stuff, I don't think this is like any kind of trade secret or anything. But the show, like the stuff that makes it into the live broadcast of Whose Line is like, isn't there a lot of stuff where the scenes just kind of don't go well and you have to redo them, or it's only the best stuff that shows up in the TV show.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. And that is the trick of it, is that the show is indeed edited. And so, if we play a game like Greatest Hits, where they usually use 3 songs, we probably did 5 or 6.
Oh, wow.
Right. And then they're going to pick the best 3. You know what I mean? So, yes.
And so don't you think a lot of improvisers put too much pressure on themselves, thinking they have to nail it like that every time, when realize it's like half, you're whatever, like a batting average or whatever,
Yes.
So that's a good point.
And yes, and these guys are fantastic improvisers, so they do definitely have a good hit rate.
Yeah.
But even these very good improvisers, there's stuff that falls flat. It just does. It just happens. It happens to all of us. But because it's television and people, a television audience doesn't have the kind of patience or, that a live audience does. A live audience Those times when you fall on your face, they're with you. Like you said earlier, they empathize, they're with you, they know it's part of the deal. They're there and they're in it. Right. And they want to see you pick yourself back up. A television audience has a little less patience, right? They got the clicker in their hand and they're going to switch to another show,
right. So it's got to be.
So, yeah. Yes. So we are really improvising, but it's edited.
Right.
Does that, you know what I mean? Because people go, you can't possibly be really improvising. We are really improvising, but you're not seeing the stuff that doesn't go well.
Right. That's a good point. And in a live show, a good improviser will actually pull a laugh or make a bit out of the thing falling apart, or play that up and milk it. All right, so let's talk about challenges, which we've dealt with that a little bit with facing fear and all that. But I'm curious if you've if you've ever faced a business or creative challenge. We all have, and so if you can name one and how you overcame it, what you learned from it, all that good stuff, I would love to hear that.
I think this is sort of a general one. I think one of the hardest things is all the no that you get out from outside, all the many no's that are part of this business. And it's like the quote, don't believe your good reviews and don't believe your bad reviews, but don't believe your good ones either. In a way, there's something about keeping yourself separate from your internal sense of your work, keeping it separate from those external things. Because if you're in this business at all for any length of time, you're going to get a million no's. Mm-hmm. And so keeping your head above water, I went through a period of being really discouraged by all the no's I got from the industry, and really learning how to say, what do I know inside myself that's separate from what the world outside of me is saying? Mm-hmm. And I felt like once I overcame that hurdle was when I was really able to tap into my own creativity and find my own voice.
Oh, cool. Yeah, success is an inside job.
Yes, that's a great quote.
Yeah. I'm not even sure where it came from, but yeah, if you rely on external circumstances for your happiness, for your satisfaction, your fulfillment, it's always going to be a losing battle. Because the world won't always give you and approve you and give you permission to do what you want. So
yes.
As a start from inside. So when you said dealing with no's, that implies. So what is your philosophy on asking? So because it sounds like to be able to get a no, you've got to go out and request something, and so I assume you got those no's when you were going. Hey, you were exploring something and asking somebody if you could do something or partner with someone.
Yes. Right? Yes. Or trying to get a gig, putting yourself out there in any way. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So getting the no's, does that, even though we talk about it internally, being confident about what you're doing, but should not stop you from continuing to ask, though, right?
Exactly. Part of me knows that in almost any situation, like say I'm trying to book my band for a gig, mm-hmm. there are a lot of factors that I don't know about that are outside of me that I don't necessarily know about, or auditioning for an actor, right? There are all these factors outside that you can't necessarily know. So you have to go in and do your best work and know that you are doing what you're best at, and it might or might not match. Mm-hmm. It might or might not match with what they are looking for. And it might have to do with circumstances that you don't even understand. So if you go in trying to guess what you think they want you to be, you know what I mean? Trying to do that game of what do I think will make them happy, as opposed to what am I best at? You're never going to be able to guess because there are a million factors outside your realm of knowledge. So having that, I feel like it's a matching game, and sometimes I'm going to match and sometimes I'm not. And when I have that mindset, it's a lot easier for me to ask, because a no doesn't mean, oh shit, I'm not talented. Oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I'm not. It means I didn't match for that context. Right.
A lot of people think it's a personal. Yeah, you shouldn't take those no's personally. Basically, it's the bottom line. Yeah,
exactly.
It's not a rejection of you as a person. It's just There's a quote that I mentioned a lot. It's actually Reverend Run. He was the original member of Run DMC, and his quote is great. He goes, "I go where I'm celebrated, not where I'm tolerated." So I love that. If you're knocking on a door and it's not opening and there's resistance there, go to where you are connecting, and people will open your arm. Would love to have you, because it is they are out there, but you have to keep asking to find those receptive places. Right?
That's right. You got to knock on a lot of doors to find those doors. And again, that's another thing that sometimes people outside look at someone's career or their success and they go, they've never had any no's. Look at all these yeses they've gotten.
Right.
But the reality is that everybody, no matter how successful, that Beyonce has had no's. That she, you know what I mean? Everybody and anybody, no matter how successful they are, have gotten a lot of no's in their life, and they've kept knocking on the doors.
Yeah. When you see what you perceive as all the yeses in the open doors, what you're really seeing is a result of all the times they've asked and been told no repeatedly and continue to persist. Anyway, that's the result that you're really seeing. But a lot of people don't realize that. That's a great point. So cool. Here's a question I like to ask every guest, because I'm an author. I love to write books. I love to read them as well. I assume that you do too, Laura. So if you were to name a book that changed your life, what would that be, and why that book?
I am going to say there's a book of collected poems by Edna St. Vincent Millay, who's like a turn-of-the-century poet. In fact, older than that. I can't even remember when she lived, somewhere in the 1800s. And it was something about, I'd always liked to read poetry, but her poetry was so personal. There was something so intensely personal about the way that she wrote. Mm-hmm. And I read her stuff like when I was a teenager. And it really, for me, triggered me as a songwriter about being able to write about your personal experience. Oh. And it got me to start looking at lyrics in a different way and really studying lyrics and how lyrics worked as poetry.
Do you remember the name of the book, by any chance?
I think it's called Collected Poems.
Okay. By Edna St. Vincent something or other.
Millay. Millay. Yeah, and I don't know, I can't even say what about her poetry spoke to me so much, although I guess it was just that it felt so intensely personal and so uniquely her. I think that's what it was. It felt uniquely her voice, and it made me really think about then, so then what makes Joni Mitchell's voice uniquely her voice? Mm-hmm. What makes Chrissie Hynde's voice uniquely her voice? It made me just start looking at lyrics and artists in a different way.
Yeah, I'm sure. And then, of course, how you could apply that to yourself. How do you express yourself as Laura Hall uniquely in your own voice?
Yes, yes.
It even gave you permission to do so when you see other people doing that,
Yes, most definitely. And again, that thing of writing what is the best of you rather than trying to guess trying to guess what's going to be a hit song or whatever, or what's going to be popular is to me just a totally losing battle. It has to be what is right for you, what feels true to you.
Right. And that's what I like, about dealing with creative entrepreneurs and doing this podcast is helping people live their authentic lives, figuring out a way to express who they truly are. And if you can make a difference or even make a living doing it, like all the better.
Right.
Right. As opposed to trying to figure out, I guess, so what's selling now? I should do that. No, that's really not the way. Where's the overlap between what comes naturally to you, what you're good at, what's an authentic expression of who you are, and maybe the overlap between that and a need in the marketplace.
Right.
That's okay to strategically think about. It's still being authentic to yourself, though, right?
Definitely. So it's then finding the people who. Because I believe for all of us, there's someone out there who wants mm-hmm. that. There's someone out there that speaks to, so it's finding those people that it speaks to. But it has to come from an internal, authentic voice first.
Right.
And then go out and then say, oh, now where is the audience for this?
Mm-hmm. Where's the overlap and who am I resonating with?
Yes.
So, and here's kind of a big, deep, so we've covered a lot of stuff. So, like a question I love asking too. So, like, what truly motivates you to do what you do? Another way of saying that is, what's your big why? So what's the reason that you get up and do all of this stuff, improv and your own music and the workshops and all that stuff?
I think it's something we touched on before. It's that I feel like I am endlessly curious about what makes things work. And whether it's, like one of the things I love about doing Whose Line is that I research a lot of different styles of music, right? Because there's a million, okay, Chinese opera. All right. What makes Chinese opera Chinese opera? What is it that makes it sound like that? What makes it tick? And it's the kind of wanting to understand how things work. So that's in the micro, what makes that one style of music work. Mm-hmm. But then, like, what makes a musical work? Right. And there's a lot of ways you can make a musical work. And I guess that's partly why it's sort of infinitely interesting to me. What makes a song work? What makes a musical work? What makes a CD, a collection of music work? What makes a band's live performance work? And there are a million answers.
There are, yeah.
So it's like, it's that I feel like I'm just always curious. And I think that's also why I always have a lot of different projects going on, because I'm curious about a lot of different things. And I think that's what keeps driving me, because the reality is being a musician for a living is kind of a crazy way to try and make a living.
It is, yet we do it anyway.
and yet we do it. Yeah. And yet I do it. And yet I also know that I've been very blessed and very lucky, with Whose Line and the other career opportunities that I've had. But yeah, I would say it's the part of me that is always curious, and I hope I have that till the day I die.
That's awesome. Wow, yeah. I've heard that's a success trait too. I actually did a piece recently on someone approached me to contribute or answer some questions for a book that they were doing on networking. And in St. Louis, anyway, they were like really amazed at how well people seem to know me here. But I never think of myself as a networker. And as I was sending the questions back, I realized that my curiosity, I'm really interested in people. So when I meet them, and this comes from being a journalist too. I published on my own music newspaper here for 10 years, way back in the day, and so I would get used to interviewing people where the focus was on them and do interviews like this. And so I really got in the habit of just listening and being fascinated and asking people, how do you do, so even in personal conversations, I'll get into things just like what we're talking about. How'd you get into that? What motivates you? How'd you create that thing? And I think that maybe helps connect when you're focused more genuinely interested in the person that you're talking to or the subject that you're, it's a different thing than when you just go in there trying to impress somebody with your credentials.
Right. And, I think that's what a lot of people perceive networking as, that I'm going to come in with my resume, pinned to my chest and
just my business card and
and I'm going to walk in the room and try and impress everyone. And actually, when a friend of mine said to me, a friend of mine who does a lot of marketing and that kind of stuff, when she said, that's not what it is at all. It's like meeting people at a party. Yeah. It's like talking to people and being as genuinely interested and curious about them as you are willing to, then when they're interested and curious about you, being willing to talk about what makes you tick. Right. That's all it is. And it's like, oh, well, then that's easy because I'll gab with,
Right. And they say you have two ears and one mouth, so you should listen twice as much as you talk. Whatever. So that's a good one. Right. But I guess if two people went into a conversation with that attitude, neither one of them would talk, I guess. Right,
that's true.
So this kind of leads into my last couple of questions here. So I'm curious of the Whose Line shooting schedule. Do you do like a bunch of episodes like in one time? Because you've got on your calendar, you've got like the month and such I'll be shooting. Like you shoot a bunch of them in one time, one day, 1 week, 1 month, and then you go and you don't have to do them for a while and come back. How does that work?
Yes. And in a way, it's so great partly because then I can do other stuff. I can book the sweet potatoes, I can do other things. Yeah, so we will work because we get a lot of shows out of one taping. We usually get 2 or 3 or sometimes even 4 episodes out of one tape day.
In one day? Okay.
In one day. So a lot of times we'll do like a 3-day weekend. There's 10 episodes, say.
Wow. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we don't have to do a lot of weekends. And they try to keep it all close together because it's easier to schedule everyone because everybody's got careers. Everybody's got different stuff they're doing. So we will probably do, last year we did 2 weekends in January and 3 in March, and that was it.
Wow, for the whole
year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a sweet schedule.
Yeah, so it's super intense while you're doing it. Really intense. We're really focused. We're like together 24/7 sort of. And then boom, and then we're done. And that's how it's sort of always been from the beginning, which was great when my kids were little because then I got to be home with my kids all the time. Anyway, so it's a super intense, and then we're done kind of for the year, unless we go back to London, which I'm knocking on wood that we may do that again.
Yeah, that must have been a blast. And then so let's just talk about your future plans. You got any sort of big? I think it's a phrase that Mark Victor Hansen I think uses. Your big, hairy, audacious goal. You have anything new on the horizon? Anything new you're working on that you're wanting to do in the near future?
Well, we certainly the sweet potatoes we're writing towards our next CD. We have 2 out, and we're doing the writing for our next. So we're going to start working on that hopefully after, like in February, after we finish the January round of Whose Line taping. And that's always a big project, and that is intense, and I love it. That's like I could make CDs all day, every day, if I could. But so that's coming up. I'm also in the midst of working on a musical, and we've been working on it for a few years. I'm working with my friends Deb LaCosta and Dan Castellaneta, who is from The Simpsons. He's the voice of Homer Simpson. Yeah,
that voice, that name. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And they both write for The Simpsons as well. So they work together as writers. So we're working on a new musical that we're hoping will open in Chicago next year.
Wow.
So that's a big, I thought making a CD was a big project. Making it's sort of a big legit musical is a huge project. We've been working on it for a few years now.
Wow. Awesome. And then if people wanted to connect with you or find you online, what's the best place or places to do that?
Well, I have a Facebook page that's Laura Hall, Laura Hall Musician, and then my website is laurahall.com. So that's easy. And if they want to get on the mailing list, then they can do that through the website. And then I keep people posted about, like, for example, when we start taping, when we know those exact dates, I'll put those up so people can, if they want to get tickets for it and stuff, or when we're touring with the Sweet Potatoes. And then we also have a Sweet Potatoes website. It's The Sweet Potatoes. If you do sweet potatoes, you get a lot of recipes.
So thesweetpotatoes.com.
Thesweetpotatoes.com, yes. Awesome. And we're on Facebook as well.
And then on your website, people can also purchase those karaoke CDs, right?
Yes,
yes. And maybe other things that you have. And then I assume they can also reach out to you if they're interested in having you and Rick come in for a workshop.
Yes, definitely. Can send me an email, and there's links to the improv karaoke CDs and the sweet potatoes CDs and everything I've ever done. There's links.
All things Laura Hall related. Well, this has been such a thrill for me. I really appreciate you taking the time and going in depth about your story, and I just love your philosophy. And so next time I see that big smile when I'm watching Whose Line, I'm going to have a whole renewed appreciation for it.
Well, thank you. It's been great talking with you. I've really enjoyed it.
All right. What did I tell you? Was that a great interview or what? Of course it was. I hope you enjoyed it even half as much as I did. So as I promised at the top of the podcast, just real quickly, I want to tell you about 2 things. One is the new Empowered Artist Mastermind Group. This is an online virtual community of proactive, energized, creative people. Yes, there are many musicians there, but you'll also find writers and visual artists and other types of creative entrepreneurs who all get together within a private Facebook group, also on live conference calls twice a month. And we share ideas and encourage each other and generally lift each other up. Pursuing a creative career, as you know, has its challenges. It doesn't have to be drudgery, but it takes effort, and you can sometimes get down, and not everyone in your life supports you. So this is a place where you come for support. Everyone there is cheering for you and eager to share resources and advice and all of that good stuff. All right, thanks for listening. Thanks for commenting and rating the podcast in iTunes and Stitcher and wherever you happen to be consuming this at. I appreciate you. I wish you the best, and I'll be back real soon with another episode. This is Bob Baker saying so long for now.
Oh, when I wake up in the morning, I feel so grateful.